Hey everyone! So today I want to show you how to create this layout utilizing InDesign. So we're going to start off by creating a new document by going to File, New Document. So a couple details. Since this is an exercise, make sure you put the E6 because this is exercise 6, and then your last name and first name, capitalizing your first and last initial. Next thing I want to focus on is the size. Now this is just going to be 8.5 by 11, but if you notice in the units it says picas. That's a standard form of measurement when you're dealing with a multi-page layout program, or also referred to as a desktop publishing program. And that's what InDesign is. So picas are just another form of measurement. For every 6 picas, that's 1 inch. So if you do the math, you can see that there's 51 picas for the width, which is 8.5, and for the height, which is 11, it is 66 picas. Now, if you're ever unsure, you can always type in 8.5 IN and hit tab, and it will convert the picas for you. But if you're not comfortable utilizing this form of measurement, you can change the picas to whatever form is comfortable for you, like inches. Set up your orientation as vertical, portrait. Now for this exercise, we want 6 pages. And we want to start on number 10 because this is going to be as if it's in the middle of a magazine and we're starting fresh as a center spread. So we're going to start at page 10 and this will take us to page 15. Another important thing I want you to pay attention to is facing pages. If you open a book up and look, you'll see a left and a right page. That's because the 2 pages are facing each other. The actual size of the document is what the book would look like closed, in which this case would be an 8.5 by 11. Now we don't want to have primary text frames, and that would indicate an active text frame right when you open the document. I want to control mine, so I'm going to leave that off. Now for the actual magazine, I want to have a 3-column grid. And that will allow 3 columns of type. So this will just give you forms of guides to utilize in order to structure information. It's not actually columns of text yet. And then my column gutter is 16667 is perfect. And margins is a 1/2 inch all the way around, which is also perfect. That would be 3 picas if you saw that. Go ahead and leave the bleed and slug alone. The bleed is what we've been talking about as far as if the ink runs off the page, and which you would need to add a little buffer amount on the edge. For this exercise, we're going to go ahead and leave this off, but we'll address it when you go to the project. And then for slug, that's your extra space in order to leave notes for printers. That's also not an issue for us right now. So I'm going to go ahead and choose Create. Now that I have my actual document here, the first thing I want to do is place an image. So I'm going to go ahead and go to File, and I'm going to choose Place. Now whenever you want to place something, you always have to have some form of container. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my image, which is going to be my nice ripe apple here, and I'm going to draw my container of where I want this to be. I want it to be in my upper left hand corner, and I'm going to click and drag my frame across. I can change this later. So I actually only want this to go to my first column on my second page. And you can see nice big apple here. Using my direct selection tool, now I can select inside the frame to move my content around. I just want to move it here a little bit. So I have a nice big apple in the center here. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom out my page by hitting Command and minus sign just so I can see a little bit more. And I'm going to hold down Shift and pull up and make a little bit bigger frame. So I want to really fill out my frame and focus on that apple. Excellent. So now that I have my big piece here, what I want to do is I want to make kind of a form of text overlaying on my apple. So I'm going to start that collage, and so to do that I'm going to go ahead and see where I want this to be. So I'm going to move my frame by using my direct selection tool and select that one little part. I'm I'm going to move it over to about seeing how much I really want off of it. Yeah, probably about there. So I want to have my Apple word kind of go in along that diagonal line. Utilizing this as a base, I can go ahead and leave this alone. Now, utilizing my type tool, I'm going to click and drag a square. Now you see my cursor flashing. Again, you have to have some form of container before you put anything in it. It won't just stand free alone, just like it would in Illustrator. You need to have some form of frame to hold it. So utilizing my type tool, I'm going to type a capital A. Now I'm going to highlight my A and I'm going to change my font. You'll see on my options bar here where it says Minion Pro, I'm going to go down and I'm going to actually choose Avant-Garde Gothic. You can choose any font you want for this, and I'm going to go ahead and go to, I'm just going to type in 200, something very large. That'll work. And I'm going to go to Demi for my style. Let's have a nice big font here. Now I'm going to type a P. So I'm going to click and drag again, and this time I'm going to type P. I'm going to highlight my P, and this time rather than going and doing all those same features, I'm going to grab my eyedropper tool and click my A. So everything has been copied. It copied the size of my font, the style, and my actual font. Now the only difference is rather than leaving this at 200, I'm going to go down a little bit in size. And actually, to be honest, I actually like the P. I think I'm going to make the A bigger. I'm going to make the A 400. And then the P 200. That works. Okay. So now I have a nice big A. And then I'm going to do something with P. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to get all my letters out and then kind of collage them together. So with that, I'm going to create my next letter, which is P, my next letter, which is L, and my next letter, which is E. And then selecting them, I can use my eyedropper tool and select my P, and the same for my L. Now that I have the forms, I can select them, turn them, and create the artistic creativity and collaging that I want. Have a little fun with this. This does not need to be exact in any sense of the word. It's supposed to be a little bit artistic and fun. So turning my letters around a little bit here. Using my arrow key here, just kind of getting an idea. And moving it around. You could have yours overlap, you could have some touch, you could leave the spaces like I'm doing, but I'm just kind of creating a typographic collage where every letter is individual. Once I have these selected, then I can go ahead and grab them and then turn them with my form and place them where I want on my collage. Now for this, what I'm focusing on is that I don't want the letters to get completely cut off, but I want them to peek with the form. They kind of peek out of it. And I want my letter to be completely intact. and making sure I can see all of my letters. I might need to move some around a little bit, like my E, which just is not quite working for me yet. It's a little too cut off. So I'm going to move it up a bit and over. Once I'm happy with my forms and they're in the right place, my spelling's correct, I didn't mess up on any letter forms, I'm going to go ahead and select them by holding down Shift. And just like you're used to in Illustrator, when we want to create type as an image rather than an actual or point, line, and plane, we're going to create outlines by going to Type and choose Create Outlines. So now these are as if you drew them with the vector program as opposed to actually utilizing type. Now, important to remember is that you cannot go back to the type tool unless you undo, but there's only so many, once you save this and move on, it won't really help you much. So you'll have to retype this out if you have any problems in the future. Once you're happy with this, we want to do a few things. The first thing I want to do is I want to bring this image back where it was. So I'm going to select that little anchor point using my direct selection tool, and then once I have it, I'm going to just move it back. And this is just because of the fact that it's easier to copy. So once I have this, I'm going to select it, then I'm going to copy it by hitting Command C. Okay, and then I'm going to go to Edit and go to Paste in Place. This is the exact apple that we had before. Now using my direct selection tool, I'm going to select that one anchor, and once I have it, I'm going to pull it over to where I want it to be. And pull it until you have your letter forms cut the way you kind of thought. Now two things are going to happen. The first thing is I want to select my background shape here, and I want to dim down the opacity. And I want to make it probably about 35. Yeah, 35 is good. Next thing I want to do is I want to select my A, P, P, L, E, and I want to fill it with nothing, so it is invisible, right? So choose No Fill. Then I want to hold down Shift, and I want you to select the picture in front. Now you have all of your letters and the picture selected. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Window, and we're going to go down to Object and Layout and choose Pathfinder. This will be familiar to you as when we did the fish exercise back in Illustrator, and we utilized the Pathfinder palette. And this is combining shapes. So with that, we're going to add the apple with the image before, and now you can see the image within the text. To add the last little detail, I'm going to select my direct selection tool, and I'm going to go to the back of my form, and I'm just going to angle this one a little bit to make my symbol and my image complete. Now I have my mage front design. The next thing I want to do is, for this graphic, is I want to add a couple types of apples in text. Utilizing the type tool, I can click and drag and then type a word that works for this, like golden. Highlighting the word, I'm going to go back to my font choice, and I'm going to go ahead and just go to the very top and choose back to my Avant-Garde Gothic and choose my type size at 24. I'm going to go ahead and leave this with the demi version again, and this time I want my type color to be white, so I'm going to choose paper. Then using my selection tool, I'm going to click and pull it over here. Now if I knew the exact measurement, I can use my angle tool there, but in some cases, like this one here, I wasn't exactly for sure, so I just hand did it. I can also set my paragraph so it aligns to the right, and that way I can actually use my selection tool and pull it over here if I wanted to move it up a bit or out of the way. Another one here. You can also copy paste, hit Command C and V, and then I can just type in or adjust, for example, the gala, and then utilizing my rotation tool. And this one I might want it a little bit smaller, but we can see that in a minute here. Seems a little bit big. Let's do 20. I can paste that again. Maybe this time I'll write delicious. And this one here, I think I want this to be larger here. So let's make this one 36. And then I'm going to paste. And this time I'm going to write Honeycrisp. And I'm going to take a look at this preview mode, see if I want to make any adjustments. And depending on how many you want to talk about, I mean, there's like 25 varieties of apples, so you can have a lot of fun with this if you wanted to. But for right now, we'll just leave it at this. Okay, so now that you have seen how we can combine text and images, overlay them, using a little opacity, and adding some text to complement the form in different directions, go ahead and try doing these techniques for your own exercise. And then when you're all done, check out the next video.